Hi, it's Dr. Arlene Dijamco, and this is my live stream, the MultiDimensional MD, Waking Up Medicine. I wanted to hop in for this extra live today because it was prompted by a question that I got from Karen. It's a really important topic. And her question was, are there things, her father is in palliative care. So this is end of life care. And her question was, are there things that we can do in his environment that would be beneficial to him other than meeting his obvious medical and physical needs? And this is that multidimensional aspect of helping a person. And it's at any stage, whether the beginning through the birth, all the way through end of life and that transition to beyond. And I consider like birth and death often to be very similar in a way. I know it's this whole cycle. It feels like beginning and end, but it can also think about death as this another beginning. And often what feels comfortable for that transition can be very similar to what feels comfortable for a baby as they're coming into the world. And we can also think about this from thinking about all the senses. And, I was very fortunate I'm going to back up a little bit here. I was very fortunate to be with each of my grandparents at their transition at the end of life. And it's a very beautiful time. It's a challenging time. It's sad and it's full of emotion, but it's also a beautiful time because the reason you feel all of that emotion is because your hearts are wanting to open and they're so filled with love. So it's really a time where people can feel more connected. And I know there's challenges in this year with COVID, and sometimes people aren't able to be physically brought together. But this is also asking us to connect at a deeper and spiritual level when we're not able to be together physically. If you are able to be together physically, as in Karen's case, then there are certain things that you can do in your environment that can be really soothing and loving and help to ease that transition. Because often people are in a lot of discomfort in various ways, whether physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so first, take a look at each of the senses. And to create that environment, you want to make the room feel more home-like. So this is, of course, easier if it is at home. But if you are in hospice or at another facility, then to create the room to feel like a more personal environment. So bringing things from the home and things that are personal to the individual that is transitioning, whether it's pictures or books or family pictures, items that they really love during their life or that are important to them, so they can feel that. Each item, anything around you has its own vibe, own frequency and vibration. So you want that vibration to be really in resonance with the person that is transitioning, with your loved one. And then we can take a look at each of those senses. So you think about vision, a sight, like what's in view. If there is any medical equipment, then see if you can tuck it away in a way or put things around it where it's maybe not so obvious. And because the medical equipment often creates like that kind of sterile environment, it's not as warm. And so if you can just keep it out of sight or just put it out of your loved one's view, then that can be helpful. And put pictures of nature or art, not anything that's too complicated or overly distracting, It's known that nature photos or pictures and art can be really soothing for a person, actually can help balance their blood pressure and their breathing, help bring feelings of relaxation, to ease stress. And this is all really important. It's all those details, because at the end of life, a person they're not often usually able to move that much. And so they really just have that environment right around them. So think about what's in their view. In terms of lighting, usually soft lighting, if you can have some natural light, but indirect light tends to be more warm and soothing. I think about this like, for the birth too, like with babies, they don't want anything glaring or bright shining in their faces. It doesn't feel comfortable often, although that's often the case. That's what happens. And so the same thing with the end of life transition, just indirect lighting that's soothing. You could follow the day and night if you can. It really will depend on the situation, what you're able to do. And it just keep that lighting without any glaring, without any high contrast. That will be just more soothing. Now, if that person like needs light, often they're not able to stand up, but if it's a more like a longer course and they are needing to stand and go use the bathroom or anything, then you may need some more light there for that person to be able to like see well, of course, with help. Because it's often hard for people, especially elderly, to see well when the lights are too dim. So you have to kind of gauge the situation in terms of the needs there. You can also include their favorite colors. So this gets really personal and individual. In general, like soothing colors can be blues and greens, lilacs, kind of luminous colors, not too bold. Bold colors tend to be like more energizing. And so you'll have to decide like what works for your loved one. And if you know like what colors they tend to go towards. But in general, just like these like soft luminous colors tend to be more soothing. And like going on through the senses, so that was the sight. Then in terms of like what you hear, of course, like any loud sounds or harsh sounds can be distracting and feel more abrasive. So to talk in like soft, soothing tones, and not have any sudden loud sounds or clinking, like the sounds of like doing dishes can be distracting. And if you play like soothing music, soft soothing music, the sounds of the harp are commonly played during palliative care. And there are so many studies on that showing how it can bring relaxation, ease stress and anxiety. And you can also see if the blood pressure, heart rate need balancing. Then if they're too high, then often playing soft music can bring it down. And so you start to see we're combining these things and they're all like soothing, and you put them all together, it can really have a great supportive impact. And then think about the sense, what the smells are around. Again, every sense is very personal, so it will depend on the individual. But commonly, lavender essential oil can be infused in the air, or you can bring the scent for your loved one to smell. And the scent of lavender can, all the same things that I talked about before, they have studies where it can help your blood pressure and your heart rate and reduce tension and bring about more relaxation. Think about the touch, like, so if you have to move your loved one beforehand, just definitely communicate with them, regardless of how conscious they are, talk to them, tell them that you need to move him or her, and then gently place your hands, walk them through every step of the way, because it's less alarming that way. It feels good to know what to expect, and so you can be reassuring in that way. And anytime you do touch, it's just like very gentle, soft touch. Again, like if you were touching a baby, so it's very like nurturing and loving kind of touch. And think about the feel of what they're wearing or the sheets. So things that are soft but can still breathe. And I mean, perhaps like, I love the feel of like organic cotton sheets if that's available. If not, it's okay. Just things that are like nice and soft and would feel good to them, but can also still breathe, because you want the temperature to be comfortable. So watch the temperature of the room, watch the temperature if there's blankets and layers, and that you adjust it accordingly. And, keeping in mind this like mind, so one more sense that the five senses that we know well. So in terms of the taste, well, more the mouth often gets really dried out. So to keep the mouth moist, you can do that with the little sponges, like with a little bit of water, and it gets really uncomfortable when your mouth is dry. So to keep that moist. And keeping in mind with this kind of multidimensional perspective, mind, body, and spirit, I also think about those comforts in terms of like mental, emotional, spiritual. So we did touch on that through the physical, but there's also so much that is not tangible, and we can make them more tangible in a way. So maybe, depending on your relationship with your loved one, there's often things that are unsaid. And so if you're able to have some courage and to open your heart and to say those things that you want to make sure that you say, before they transition. If there's anything, of course, relationships are complicated and have many layers. So if there's areas that maybe need forgiveness, to say that, if you can have room for that, to go ahead and say it. Now, everyone's relationship is different, and so sometimes it can feel really tricky and challenging to say things out loud. And so this is where we can turn to and trust into that spirit level and connect more spirit to spirit. So you could simply take a moment and really like very sincerely communicate from like higher self to higher self, again, spirit to spirit, anything that you want to say, whatever you want to get off your chest, and whatever you want to give gratitude for, give thanks for, give love for, and to say it in that way, and trust that your loved one will, on some level, receive that message. They will feel it. When you feel it, and very sincerely and authentically, they will feel it, and it does make a big difference. And I've been at the bedside of people when they've passed, and I've seen that sometimes, even when people are unconscious, they can be very distraught. And it's interesting because they're not awake and necessarily aware in the way we think of, like when we're talking like this, but they're aware in a way. And sometimes I feel, because I'm a cranial osteopath, I can feel that there's in this kind of like fight or flight for various reasons. Often it can be so difficult to leave, like maybe they're ready, but at the same time, it's really hard. They might feel guilty for leaving loved ones behind. And when I talk about this, it feels really emotional for me too, because I'm remembering certain things when I've been at the bedside of people. And so walking them through that, how like reassuring your loved one that it's okay, because if they're at this in the palliative care state and they're at the end of life, they're ready. And so to reassure them that it's going to be okay, if they cross over, that whoever they left behind, it will be okay. And it's that deeper trust that you don't have to have certain things happen for things to be okay, that you are okay no matter what happens. And that is such a big relief, because they often are just feeling this great burden that they are creating so much suffering for the people that they're leaving behind. And so to give that reassurance, and it takes a lot of courage, because you can see, like, even when I talk about it, it's very emotional. And so it's the courage to kind of step into that. And again, when you do, it's because you love so much. And so there's no reason to hold back on that. You want to be able to love freely and to really be present, have that gift of presence at every stage. And so, that gift of presence can be both a physical presence, but even if you can't be physically there, a spiritual presence can really be felt even from far away. And so I like to be able to support people in that way. Yes, and Craig's saying, yeah, we are all connected. Like, truly, we are all connected. And I've witnessed this so many times. So you don't have to be physically close together for your loved one to feel your love and whatever it is that you have to say, and that reassurance of okayness, that no matter what happens, it's okay. And that freedom for them, that they can, when they are ready to cross over. Of course, there's no rush, and it's all in divine timing. And that just feels like so spacious, with the freedom that you can transition. And I'll tell you that when they do transition, of course, it can take time, and that's the palliative care or the hospice. Sometimes it can go very quickly and be unexpected. But at the moment of the transition, so when maybe the medical person comes in and pronounces the time of death, for me, that exact time, it's not necessarily over right then. What I feel from a cranial osteopathic perspective, and then if you just feel like with your awareness, with that more spiritual awareness, that person's essence still hangs around. There's some transition from when the breath and the heart actually stop, from when that spiritual essence actually, leaves the body. So, maybe it takes maybe 20 minutes or so. Again, I don't have tons of statistics on that, but to have that awareness. And then even after that time, there, of course, still have this sort of this spiritual awareness, and you can still be connected even afterwards. But since we're talking about the transition time, to stay with your loved one during that transition, because they're still there, even though the physical has stopped flowing, the heart and the breath, it's not completely done. So to help your loved one and know, because it can be, of course, a lonely time, but when you keep staying connected and talking, whether out loud, or you don't have to talk out loud, you can just say it with your mind and your intention and your loving compassion. Sometimes it can be even without words, and you can feel so much more than sometimes we can put words to, and that's totally fine. But to stay with it, and I feel like that would be a beautiful way to help your loved one transition, because this is so important, that we do help and that they don't feel alone. And we create this environment to honor them and to help them feel loved, and to move on when they're ready. So I hope that helps in some way for you and anyone else going through this, not only Karen, but that's why I wanted to pop on here, because I knew that other people would have this question. And remember, if you are not able to be physically present, of course, that's so difficult, but you can still have that presence on the spiritual level. And this is what we're being asked to do if we are not able to be physical present. So it's growing in that way with courage and trust that you can still be there for your loved one, even if you can't physically be there. So much love to you. It's Dr. Arlene Dijamco, the MultiDimensional MD. And if you have any other questions about any topic, I'm happy to hop on and see if I can talk about it and share with you and with anyone else that could help. If you'd like to connect with me further, definitely like and subscribe. You can connect with me also on Instagram at All Worlds Health, on Facebook at All Worlds Health and Pediatrics, and my website, allworldshealth.com. So love you tons, and I'll see you again very soon. Take care.